The Persian music has a great influence on me. I remember my childhood. All our trips was with the traditional Persian music because after the revolution, the classical music completely stopped. There wasn't any event related to the classical music.
Yeah.
And pop music the same as. And classical traditional Iranian Persian music was very, very valuable and full of interesting material in that. And that was a chance that we missed the pop music. We didn't have a lot of pop music. Instead of that, we had traditional music. It was a good chance in my childhood. And I remember many times I listened to the master of the Iran, like Shajarian, like Mishkatian. And of course, when I'm starting to composing, many times, for example, when I made a Iranian interval, the interval leads the sound like traditional music. I try to change it. I make a decision, okay, let me change it to another one. For example, six, seven, nine, 10 times, change it, jump the note, and then back to that one. I
Mm.
think that is in inside of my blood. And honestly, I love Persian music. And I think this is my chance and my material that I can work on it. Like Dvorak, like many composer that work on their own folk music. And there is a lot of capacity in Persian music to bring it in a classical music. There is a lot, huge. And sometimes because of this, I prefer to composing like traditional style, not the contemporary composition that many composers do this because I think I have a lot of material and I have a lot of things to speak and to say about that.
Mm. When you do compose in a more contemporary style, how do you go about balancing that with these more traditional Persian sounds that you compose with?
I have a lot of colleagues that they are a traditional Persian player and many times they can help me and I ask them about the theme, about the intervals, about the ability of the instrument. And before to writing, I check with them. But I had a great experience that was like a university. I think 6 or 7 years ago, that I had a contract with the private company in Iran that they need the 12 hours ambient music.
Mm.
And I wrote this ambient music. That's about 5 hours. I wrote it, and with my two colleagues, and I had the chance to be a producer and stay all these music in the studio to check everything. Sometimes I forced to change something because the result was not good as I wanted. And in that project, I worked completely with Iranian and Western instrument. Tar, setar, shurangi, santur, ney, and the Western classical instrument. In that time, that was great experience for me to help me the combination of this sound, which part is work, which part is not work, exactly like orchestration study. That was amazing experience, yeah.
That's the perfect lead in for my next question, which is about the way you work with Persian instruments alongside Western classical instruments. So, I'm wondering what artistic considerations do you make when writing for these combinations of Western and Persian or Iranian instruments? And how are you able to kind of emulate or copy the sounds of Persian instruments when you only write for Western instruments like cello, for example?
That is really important because there is a difference between Western music and Persian music. What is that? The Persian music is not written, it's oral music. generation by generation comes just by ear. Just a couple of years, about 20 years or more than this, a little more than this, to start to write the music according to the science of the Western music. And when I want to write it, I will check with my colleagues that they know the knowledge of the Western music, and I check with them. And sometimes there is written Persian music, and I can check the techniques. But many times I feel the lack of something. For example, one of my idea I love, I'm sure that it will be a very amazing sound. The combination of the Iran percussion instrument, the name is tombak, with string quartet.
Mm.
I think it will be amazing sound.
Oh, yeah.
It will be amazing, but there is a problem. There isn't very deep source to show me the sign of the tombak. We have something, but this is not the whole of the things as a professional tombak player can play. And we have just one or two very master tombak player, and sometimes I spoke with them, please write it, what happened after 100 year when you are not in the war, what happened for next generation, they should listen to the music and try to make that sound, or you can write it, that it's really easy. And if you don't write it, AI will do this. I believe the AI can do this, not now, but in near future. But try to find the way to fix something with the player. For example, in last project that was in Oxford Song Festival, there was a Persian instrument shurangiz. That song was about 1 hour, and I had a chance because the Shurangis player is my husband, and I check
Mm.
everything, and he was very angry. Oh my God, what is this? I said, oh, this is the real music. You should read it and you
Yeah.
must play it. It was a little hard for him because it's not in their culture of the art, in the culture of the music, Persian music. But finally, we need to speak and need to make a dialogue to make it. And finally, it will happen. Just need a little dialogue.
So it's a bit of a challenge then, trying to find people who play these instruments that can more or less read Western notation. Is that right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. But new generation of the Iranian instrument player can read and write very good, and they know all the details about the Western music.
yeah.
Now these days, it's really easy to make connection between Western and East music.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Kline, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.